Go, recording started. Okay, so tonight we have a special planning board meeting. I did not send out an agenda because the agenda has one item on it, which is discussion of technology slash server farm slash crypto mining type facilities within the town, which are currently not addressed in our zone. So that is the primary topic tonight. Ray, did you say you had some updates you wanted to do first?
Yeah, so I was talking to Nan and she's working on her more focused scope of work. She'll have that to us next week, so we can review that for the meeting on the 27th to approve, hopefully, and pass on to the town board. So just wanted to confirm that her initial thoughts on the public process were to really get some draft language out there first before getting feedback from the public. And so that was a little different than some of our earlier discussions about going out. So I just wanted to get a sense of how we want to approach the outreach program. Maybe initially having, well, do we want to bring in liaisons from some of the other committees and boards and maybe use that as initial round feedback and then wait and get some draft language out there before we truly go out to a public meeting process.
Right, and we are getting some feedback from the report, from the boards, right? So
Housing committee especially is
right,
putting together.
housing committees put, well, and I think there was another one we
Ag had one.
Ag had one, I think, too, comments on it.
Conservation.
So
Sounds good.
I think I agree, reaching out to them, having some discussions with them initially. And their feedback on the report and and their thoughts about zoning. My view is I tend to agree that we should have some kind of draft language because, if you just go out to the public and say, what do you think we should have in our zoning?
Yeah, it could be a free for all.
Well, and I don't know that they have any idea what we're talking about.
Well, some people think they.
Well, some people.
And we've gotten a lot of feedback from the update process.
Well, and we have all the feedback from the comprehensive plan process, so we know what people are thinking, right? At least what they were thinking 2 years ago, right? I don't know, what are other thoughts?
I don't think anything we're doing is very radical, so I
Right.
might be safe to put something together for them and then do a presentation. It's not like, at least we haven't presented anything too radical yet.
And what about the idea of getting liaisons or representatives from the other committees? I think we put out the call to all of them, at most half of them would actually send somebody to the meetings. So I don't think we're ballooning our steering committee too big. And I would expect housing to definitely send somebody, but the other ones, I'm not sure.
Or do you want to get something going first and then present it to them?
Yeah, well. When do we want to engage them, earlier or later?
The committees, I kind of lean towards early engaging them, but
I might get more buy-in if they feel like you're coming in at the start of the year.
yeah, because I think that's one of the issues we had with the comp plan, and it wasn't really anybody's fault, is that there were these, you can put out information and ask for feedback, but then people hear about something and they go, nobody told me, right? And what I mean? So you get I think we want to try to avoid. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you get, the earlier you engage people, the more buy-in you get. I think. But as far as having them as liaisons, you're thinking having them actually as committee members.
Yeah, I would invite them right into this, because this is a steering committee of the whole for the rewrite. And if we put out to the other committees, I bet you we'd only get 2 or 3. When we did something similar for the comp plan, and I only remember Conservation Board and Ag Committee having any regular representation at those meetings. Everybody else didn't send anyone regularly.
Right.
I think we'd have the same.
How would that work? If we're doing resolutions to send it, is it still the planning board that's doing the resolutions that go to the town board?
Decide on how to engage them. They're at least sitting at the table.
Right. Right, so we have the discussions and, but when we get to the point of putting things forward to the resolution, hopefully we'd have agreement from them. Because it's really the planning boards is who's been charged with doing this, right? So it's, yeah.
They can see the sense of that. The other representatives from other committees would see sense that, yes, they're placed at the table, but not a voting member of the steering committee.
Right.
So is it this meeting that we're talking about?
Yeah, the extra one each month.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I think you're right. It helps with buying and open the doors for people. As far as the schedule is concerned, I think, well, what I put in the straw man schedule was that this phase one scope would come together fairly quickly based on CPA's recommendation. And we talked
Well,
about.
and we're moving forward with that, because the modified document has been sent to Nan. And at the next meeting, she's supposed to come back to us with a proposal for the scope and contract pieces for to recommend to the town board. So really, when we're talking about these liaisons, it's really going to be, they're not going to be helping define this first phase so much as just being involved in the first phase.
So conceivably, then it would be that when we have our planning board meeting later this month, we will have Nan's recommendations ahead of time in the process.
Yep.
And that we would be able to kind of finalize that scope. And then in this meeting, a week or a month from now, that's the meeting where we would invite the liaisons from the other groups and finalize a document, which would then go to the town board. Is that what you're thinking?
Unless we finalize it on the February 27th meeting. That's when it might get finalized. We
Okay,
use the
but-
March meeting, this meeting in March to go on to battery or another step.
So then why would we meet a week or a month from in this context?
Yeah, we may decide not to.
It depends on, because these meetings were really set up to talk about these pieces that we decided were priority work.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out when will we meet with the liaisons from the other board.
Well, we definitely don't want to invite them and then not have a meeting. That would be weird, so.
So
Yeah.
we could invite them to the planning board meeting later this month if we think that that's gonna be.
Or just put the invite out there in March to join us at the April meeting of this group.
Yeah. But again, I think if the plan is that at the planning board meeting this month, we're gonna finalize the scope. And if we'd like to have some input from the other boards as part of that, we can figure out how.
I don't know that we want, I don't know that we need to delay the scope. Do you think we need input from the other boards on the
I
scope?
think the scope is fine, yeah.
I mean, we know what we're gonna be working on, and we can present that to those boards and say, here's the things we're gonna be working on in phase one, and then we're gonna do phase two, but we're,
Asking for
And then
some
asking for
written input
Right.
from them, so they can at least get prepped on it. If they haven't already. So we talking all the board, we talking rec, we talking energy, we talking,
I would blast it out there to everybody. There's 10 different committees. As I say, we might only get representatives coming here from
Other than that,
conservation, ag and housing.
you might need a bigger room if you're wrong, though.
Well, and
well, we can use the big room on
Yeah.
this night, right?
yeah,
well, that's, so one of the last things I was gonna do tonight is figure out when we were gonna have these extra meetings and the first Thursday is available. We could use the courtroom and
Nan is also available, not that she would want to be at every one of these meetings, but she could come in on, yes, the first Thursdays available on her schedule.
Now, what that means is, in some months we'll have, meetings a week apart,
Mhm.
but, okay, that's fine, as far as I'm concerned, but I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on that.
10 more people, wow.
I don't think we're gonna get that level of participation, but.
I could be wrong, but.
It's gonna be interesting.
I mean,
Adding
you're right.
meetings to
Well,
the
I-
schedule
it depends on-
not
it depends on who comes
attracts
from,
people.
it depends on who comes from housing,
I mean, you're right, it could,
and it depends on who comes from ZBA, which
If you've got-
I think we all know who will come.
if you've got 17 people, you know. You've got 17 people all weighing in on this, that could be some interesting meetings. And long.
Well, once the scope is established, so.
Right.
If later this month we agree on a scope and create a document that defines what that means, and I assume that Nan will help do that. And then we ship it off to the town board and all the other boards
Or feedback.
for feedback.
Mm.
Then there's not a whole lot that we do. We're waiting
Yeah,
for the feedback.
Mhm.
And then at some point, we get the feedback, we have a modified document as need be, that the town board will bless. There's still not a lot for us to do, you know, we can make the modifications, which I wouldn't expect to be particularly significant. And then we have a communication plan, that would include a PowerPoint that we would take on the street. But we're not making decisions and stuff like that, we're going out and we're presenting it. So that's different from the comp plan where we had monthly meetings and at every meeting, there was a whole lot of stuff for us to process. I
That's
don't
true.
think this is gonna roll out that way.
Well, I think when we start talking the housing piece, that's gonna. I think there's a few things on the list that are gonna take some discussion. I think this one we're talking about tonight is one, and you know. I think the battery one is pretty straightforward, but the. But I think when we get into housing, it could get interesting.
When do we expect to hear, you said the housing folks are preparing written comments?
Yeah, they're going through the document and inserting comments in a track changes fashion.
How long do we think that's gonna take?
Well, they're, did they schedule?
We'll
this
meet, yeah, they're gonna
meeting?
meet next Wednesday,
Yeah, okay.
and they're hoping to have a document before our next meeting.
Yeah.
So I suspect that in 2 weeks you'll have a document,
Okay, good.
and it's, yeah,
It's not earth shaking, it's a lot of, yeah, we agree with this point that Nan makes. And, you know, there are probably 15 of those that they just wanna
yeah,
chime in that they really support it.
Yeah,
there's a few biggies, but. Large lot zoning.
Yeah.
Not to have it.
Just to reinforce the cluster principle and not go with big lot.
Mhm.
Right. Okay. So does that sound, you know, so the idea would be that we want the town board to take up the resolution of the scope and all that at their March meeting.
Agenda meeting.
if the stars aligned.
Right,
That would be,
that would be the ideal.
the ambitious.
Yeah, yeah. So while Nan said she'd get something back to me, I told her I needed it the Thursday before our meeting. At the latest, so my plan is to send it out with the agenda. You know, so whatever Nan sends back, send it out with the agenda, so we'll have it.
Yeah, okay, so it sounds like then for the inclusion of the other boards, we should let them know that at the February planning board meeting that we're gonna be getting into the scope.
Right.
And that we're planning on that meeting producing a document, which then goes to the town board and they'll get copied on it. If they wanna participate in the deliberations in any way, they should come to the planning board.
Will we have time with the February meeting?
There's only a couple of projects right now, so it seems fairly late. Say we could devote a good half hour to an hour to this.
Okay, so it'd be later, 7 o'clock.
Yeah, that's where we wanted to put the agenda.
Yeah.
Projects first.
Yeah, we can put it later in the agenda. I mean, I like, if there's projects, I like to get, you know, we like to get them out of the way sooner because there's usually people there waiting, right? So it'd be good to do those things first.
That doesn't give boards very much time to. That's only 2 weeks,
To do what?
February meeting. For the board notification anyways.
Yeah, another way to approach it, I guess, would be to have this board approve the product at the 27th of February meeting, and then that goes out to the boards and the town board and says this is gonna be on the agenda for the town board. You want to give input,
Yeah,
come to the town board
come
meeting.
to the town board meeting.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
No,
So
that always makes more sense.
And we could, we could have one of the, we could have, so we send it out, and we could have this meeting in March. And if there's people that really wanna put input, say, no, you really screwed that up. It could come up.
Well, it's already left our hands,
Yeah.
it's now on its way to the
Yeah,
town.
that's fine,
Yeah.
that's fine.
So-
Okay, let them do the additions, yeah.
No, it works.
Okay,
So the important thing though would be to let the other boards know that at the planning board meeting later this month, there's gonna be a detailed discussion of scope, and if they're interested, welcome to attend. And then you'll have another crack at it when the town board deliberates on the document that we produce in March. So they know what's going on.
okay. Yeah, okay, and we can probably get that out. Get that out this week, right?
Invite to the boards, yeah, or early next week. That's still 2 weeks ahead of the 27th.
Alright. So that's that. So what we really wanted to talk about tonight was server farms, crypto mining. And I guess the first question I have is that the target, or is the target high energy use businesses?
Tony,
Yep,
so I've been just listening in, but also, kind of refreshing my memory and going back to August, when you were circulating the town board resolution on crypto mining.
yeah,
Just refreshing my memory on this, and what the town board had voted to ask us to consider. So I guess a question for us is, where are we in terms of the three basic questions that we're supposed to be addressing? Is that what we're talking about as part of this?
yes.
Okay, so where are we?
What
Have we
are the
start- have we
questions?
started, or?
I think you started a good point, right? Is it focused exactly on data mining and data centers, or is it larger than that?
The energy.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the primary reason that there's an objection to crypto mining specifically is the amount of energy use that it has for the perceived value, right? For what you get out of it, because it's not actually, to most people, it's not actually producing anything, right? And so uses huge amounts of energy, doesn't really make anything, right?
So I mean, what other industries would meet that same criteria? I mean, I'd say some large grow houses, some people feel the same way about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I would argue that a grow house does actually produce
It
something.
does.
You may not like what it produces, but it
I'm
does
not-
actually
I'm not
produce
saying
something. Yeah.
I dislike something,
Yeah.
but if you make that definition too broad, all of a sudden, what else would
Right,
impact?
right. I mean, I think we need to focus it on, so I think this particular piece needs to focus specifically on data. Hard part is if you call it data centers means a really wide range of things.
I think you actually said this before, but there's a scale thing here too, right? So like a small scale data center, which has a few servers in it, that's, they're helping the local bank and school or something run the servers is different than, Google coming in saying, hey, we want to run our cloud out of this warehouse.
Mhm.
And, I don't think our local like networks that we couldn't support that nor could our electrical. So what are the scales, right?
Right.
And what tiers?
Yeah, that's a good point. Because, we certainly don't want to stop Dryden Insurance from having a data center in their building, right? That's really not the intent. Now, granted, that's not the, the primary function of that building is not a data center, right? But but if we write it in a certain way, you could potentially interfere with that, right?
Yeah.
And that's not really the intent.
I mean, the other thing that's kind of growing fast here is the AI world.
AI is the
And
same
you could
thing.
see a small outbreak at Cornell or something coming in here and wanting to create a small, not or medium scale, like AI research building that
Mhm.
would have quite a bit of power usage along with data usage.
It would, yep.
And I could see people being more acceptable of that than, depending how you see it,
Right.
or less so.
I mean, all three of those are kind of interrelated on the same topics.
Yeah.
The energy use, the consumption of resources and very similar use type.
Yeah.
Brad, I don't have it up in front of me. Can you just refresh everybody the three?
The town board charge.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I should have had it up, I'm sorry, but
Be it resolved, the town of Dryden charges the planning board with providing its opinion on the following questions. 1, are crypto mining and data processing facilities consistent with the town's comprehensive plan? 2, should commercial crypto mining and data processing facilities be included in the town zoning law? If yes, then what regulations does the planning board recommend? And 3, can the planning board identify potential positive and or negative impacts to the town beyond the context of the comprehensive plan? If yes, then identify those potential impacts for the town board's consideration.
right. So I think, right, the answer to number 2 is yes, definitely. We think it should be incorporated into the zoning. As far as being consistent, I think there are some areas of the town that data centers, AI data centers, whatever, might be consistent. And I'm thinking of areas like, the area by NICEAG, these industrial areas like near NICEAG, right?
Industrial fruit area.
Might be an area, you certainly, I think you certainly don't want one in a residential neighborhood, right? So, but, it's definitely not consistent. So I think the answer is, it could be consistent in certain areas, but would be not consistent in most areas of the town. It would be sort of,
It just seems to me that there maybe is a pretty clear distinction between what you're referring to as data centers, like with Dryden Insurance, that are business specific, as opposed to standalone crypto mining facilities, which are a whole nother scale. And I think we could break those up into 2 very distinct,
I
parts.
think you're absolutely right, because, so what we're talking about, I don't think we need to, I think small data centers that are part of another business are probably best left not with their own, like they would be covered under the other types of zone, the other things in zoning, right? But there be specific zoning related to, these would be large data centers, and I don't even think, I'm not saying large, but
What defines that? Right?
yeah, that's right. But I would say, data centers, standalone data centers designed for cloud hosting, AI, and crypto mining.
What if you,
Yeah.
there's a different way though, because
Yeah.
maybe the tier is actually the amount of energy actually consumed, not size
Yeah.
of the building, not where it is so much. Because
Yeah.
you look like our carbon neutral plan, if there's a business coming in, it's gonna impact that ability to get there, and it's gonna make it more expensive for Dryden residents. There's probably, we could probably do some research to figure out when does that happen, when, if a specific entity is gonna use so much power, it's gonna impact that. And that should be something that could be in the plan, right? And maybe that's where the tiers are based off of, is the actual amount of power being consumed.
But how do you regulate or monitor their use?
how do we enforce any of our?
That would require getting some meter readings or something.
Yeah, I mean,
It
yeah,
wouldn't, so the size of the building would regulate the usage too.
but you could have a fairly small building, use a lot of power, depending on what they're doing.
Depends on what power.
Well, that's exactly.
Right, well, and it could have to, it could be based on what the service to the building is. But, you know. 400 amp service can still use a fair amount of power, 1,000 amp service, right, you know, what.
The tough thing is to figure out what would the criteria be for, what would
Right.
the limit be, and
Yeah.
so, you know, the NICEAG's Aetna substation, how much spare capacity is it reasonable to assign to a data center from that? There's a twin pair of sub-transmission lines that run from the Aetna substation over to a substation behind the Trip Hammer Mall that cuts right through the industrial district here in Dryden. But what's the capacity of those lines? How much load is
Yeah.
available? And no idea. So
Yeah, how can we get that information?
That's it, called NICEAG,
Not sure what.
Well, why do we need it?
yeah,
What do you need?
And
it
so
for?
they were to tell us, yeah, well, there's 30 megawatts available on those lines, then what would the criteria be to assign some percentage of that to?
Yeah.
It would be really hard to do.
Yeah. I think it's in the building issues too, because isn't the service to the building part of the building and not necessarily part of planning?
It is, we generally, you're right, we generally don't, we're not, planning is not concerned with. The structure of the building, right, we're not doing building codes, are we? Like,
No, it's the outward.
right, we're,
footprint.
yeah, the footprint,
So I don't even know if we'd have the capacity.
yeah, where does energy use come in? Brad has his hand up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know if it was Chris mentioning earlier the energy use, which is obviously we know significant. I'm thinking that this is also, you know, a question of you know, climate and environment that really goes beyond our purview and into an environmental committee, you know, climate action plan. You know, input I think would be helpful. Because, you know, the thing is these consume just massive amounts of energy, but also the source of that energy is largely, you know, from, you know, conventional generation, you know, coal, natural gas, et cetera.
New York doesn't have any coal plants left.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, I mean, my point being, I'm just supporting that, you know, or just echoing what I think Chris said about the energy use, and I think it's a concern that we need to address. You know, I think the number 3 in the list, which I posted on the chat section, is an area that I have a lot of interest in helping out with if it's something, you know, we want to have a few of us you know, research and put, you know, as compile as part of our report, or you know, to you know, answer what the town board is asking us to do.
Yeah, I think that's a step we definitely need to take, and that's what I was just thinking about, you know, where can we find, I mean, I started looking at. Because there are a couple of there are a couple of municipalities that have actually taken this on and done some zoning and things around it. You know, so one thing is to reach out to those, you know, I think Nan certainly is gonna have some input on what others might be doing in this realm. But really, if we tie this, I mean, the first thing is tying it back to the comprehensive plan. You know, there was specific things in the comprehensive plan related to energy use and specifically green energy use, right? And reducing fossil fuel consumption and all of those kind of things that was built into the comp plan. A crypto mining facility really goes counter to that. Unless you're building a huge wind farm, you're not gonna power this thing with, right? It really kind of goes against that.
You know,
But Brad, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Really, what we need to do is we need to somehow get information to understand exactly what it is, so what is the energy use? What does
Yeah.
it mean? What,
Yeah.
you know,
And I'm remembering that also back in August, we were talking about reaching out to Anna Kellis about that, because she's, a great resource and concerned about this, as part of a larger picture. So we could do that.
Or join up one of these meetings.
Yeah.
I emailed her twice about just sharing resources on crypto and didn't get a response.
Did not get a response, okay.
And Dan reiterated it also, so I'm not sure why we didn't get that.
Does anybody think we should allow crypto mining here in Dryden?
I think it's counter to our comprehensive plan.
I'm not crazy about it.
If we wanna write that into zoning, I think we need to be able to justify that.
So, but through the energy use, yeah.
In every respect, it seems counter to.
I mean, the energy use, even if you did renewable energy. I mean, you're not gonna, you could put all the solar panels in the world out there and all the winds, because you're still gonna miss your target. You're still gonna have 8 hours of something that's, the wind's not blowing or the sun's not shining. So you'd have to tie into a hydro dam, and I think those are all bought up by now. So, right?
I think of just the high opportunity cost. I mean, we have goals of housing that are gonna be precluded by an allotment to a data center.
That's true too, if you look at, because we're already short on power in Barnum.
So is this really a zoning thing, not a planning? Or, the zoning rules would then prohibit that type of use anywhere.
Right.
In zoning laws,
Right.
which is an easy answer.
It is an easy answer. Well, but again, I think I still think we need to get some more information to put some, justification behind it, right? Because we can all say, look, it's counter to our, I think we all agree, it's counter to our comprehensive plan. But I think we need to put some facts behind that to say it's counter to our comprehensive plan because this. And you're right, if doing a crypto mining facility prevents us from being able to build housing because there isn't enough power availability.
What about small scale though? Because since these three are kind of tied together, if you have a small scale, what's to prevent someone from starting a small business with a data center or AI for that matter? And if someone wants to do a small scale crypto, people can put all kinds of, and at their houses, they can have all kinds of
Yeah, but you're gonna be
facilities
limited,
and
a house is gonna be
growing
limited
facilities.
to, 200 or 400 amp service, right? I mean, how big are you gonna be able to make it, right?
No, there's no monitoring of greenhouse or like grow house of any kind.
Right.
If I have a barn and I want to grow all kinds of crops in it, then what's to stop me to run it 24/7? Nothing.
I think really what you're focused on is the larger scale.
Commercial.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should limit.
These are
Bigger
we're
ones.
what we're talking about here are standalone.
Yeah.
Large, but not, I don't wanna say large or small. These are standalone
Standalone facilities.
facilities specifically
Built for that use.
built for that use.
I'm just wondering if this New York stretch code or the energy code could help us too. Because now you have to do whole building monitoring and all of that stuff, and you have pretty stringent calculations to go through to just build a building nowadays through stretch code, and it's required, right?
Mhm.
And that would come to your department to monitor that, but that could be one of our reasons too, that they have to meet these stretch codes anyway.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that would limit it,
You know,
or constrain it.
Yeah. Wouldn't limit it, but if you're asking for,
Well,
yeah.
What if somebody proposed a mixed use where they have two proponents, one is allowed use, and then the other part of the building is data center or crypto use? Would that fall through the cracks or?
It's a good point.
It's not a standalone. Just trying to cover different bases. Right? I mean, you could limit it to those industrial areas with. If it deems that it would fall, or it should go there, or potentially go there.
And, you know, a part of me is like, do you just ban, do you just ban crypto mining, completely? It's a not acceptable use at all. And then the question comes up about AI and
Data center.
data centers. And, I certainly could write it right that says crypto mining is a not acceptable use anywhere. If somebody's doing it in their house on their own little machines.
Right,
Not really very.
I don't know that we can even
right.
know that they're doing it, right?
Well, it's a house with no snow on the roof.
That's right, it's no other. But, yeah, so, I think the steps we need to take then are, I think. There's somebody at Cornell or somebody that could. It would be great if there was just somebody that could come talk to us about crypto mining in general and that really understood, its energy use and how they're set up and how people structure them and. Because you're right, in order to word this right, in order to do what we want to do, we'd have to make sure we're catching every possible scenario, right? Because you're right, because what if somebody does a mixed use and part of it's a crypto mining facility?
Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
If we're looking at this strictly from, a New York State building code or energy conservation code, or stretch code, it is so antithetical to everything that these codes, which are updated every 3 years, are about. This use blows everything so far out of the water. Here we are asking, residential uses, single family, multifamily, mixed use, commercial, municipal facilities to, pare down, use as little energy as possible, keep reducing. And here come these crypto mining facilities that are about as polar opposite as you get. So
Right.
to me, it's completely unacceptable, frankly. We're trying to take everything in the direction of reducing the 40% or so greenhouse gases that buildings contribute. And here we are saying, but here we're going to make a massive exception for this crypto mining use. It doesn't fit in any way. So the more I look at this and think about it, the more it's just, it's not a fit at all at any level, frankly. That's just my thought on just coming from a building use and an energy consumption point of view. It doesn't fit any paradigm that we're working towards in New York State or at any level, frankly.
And I agree completely with what you said. And the other piece of that is that the product of crypto mining doesn't really benefit in any meaningful way.
Doesn't make jobs.
Well, it doesn't make jobs, but it's not necessary. I mean,
It's true.
There is no, you're right, there is no benefit to the town of driving for it.
I agree.
They're not getting any sales tax off of it.
so the rationale for saying we're not gonna do it seems fairly straightforward and
Right,
compelling.
but I still feel like we need some kind of concrete, like statistics or something, a crypto mining facility.
What other towns in New York State have gone that far?
Um,
That's the thing. So we would be the first one out there. This could hit
I
papers.
thought there was one, wasn't there one that
You look at Dresden.
Dresden?
Yeah, I posted a link or something about
Yeah.
that.
This is the Greenwich. They're chugging away.
Greenidge was the plant over in Seneca Lake. So
That's Dresden, right?
I'm not sure.
Dresden, yeah.
Yeah, they're trying their
Okay.
best to make it
Okay.
go away and they're.
Still too late.
They're not having particular luck.
Hmm.
Oh, that's the Green Ridge one.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can't undo it once it's done.
Oh, and that one's using a gas powered
Mhm.
power plant to power it. Oh my god.
Yeah, doesn't I see the picture of the lake there?
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, they're powering a crypto mining facility
With a power plant.
with a gas power plant. Yeah,
Probably
Okay.
frack gas too.
and yeah, it's frac gas too, right? Um.
So would you, the same would be true with AI then?
Well, I mean, and here's the thing, AI is an exploding thing, but is it consistent with the town of, is that use consistent in the town of Dryden?
And let the big boys do it.
You know,
They're the ones buying the nuclear plants to power it, it's,
the,
right?
Well, I've used AI in my work.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it has to be produced here.
Well, that's
You-
true.
You use,
Yeah,
you use.
no, I'm
that's
just
why I
saying, I think it's different than crypto.
said It is.
I think that AI, the product can be useful.
Oh, I'm not saying the product's not, useful, I'm just saying you want to have. It's the same. You might have servers in the town of Dryden that.
Yeah, and to me, that's a matter of scale. If somebody said they wanted to put in a 200 kilowatt AI machine and put it over in the industrial area.
I mean, you could do both, right? You could say crypto mining is not allowed. However, there are tiered levels of energy use for data-driven services, right? And we would outright say that crypto mining is not allowed, but when it gets into like a company that wants to do AI research, let's say, that could benefit Dryden, right? You could bring in some people from outside that are, generate a research place. Maybe going between SUNY Cortland and Cornell, right? There's benefit there, so you're not outright saying no to them, but you wouldn't want a data center so big that it's gonna suck up every amp we have coming into Dryden.
And that would be through special use permit.
And I don't know what those are, I don't know what those tiers are, but we could probably figure out. Like, we can figure out how much Dryden uses in all, and how much do we produce through our solar right now, right? We can compare all those things and kind of figure out
Well,
where.
a real
impact-
general concept, the 32 megawatts that we built of solar in our town, I think was equated to the like half of the town's usage. Is that ring true?
No.
I
No?
don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I just was reading, Albany, when they did the 2-year moratorium, when they came back and said, okay, it's okay. They're requiring that these centers actually use renewable resources, and they have to prove that they're producing that.
That was the one that expired in November.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but that's something else. If you'd have to require that they invest in and bring in natural or renewable
They
resources.
didn't renew that.
I mean, we could look into that too, but. And that would discourage the big boys coming in, right? Because they're not gonna wanna buy out that many renewable, credits where they could go next door, but we wouldn't be an outright no.
Human Issue of Zoning Practice had an article called Zoning for Data Centers and Crypto Mining. From the American Planning Association.
John, where were you going? Just ban it all? How we were going?
I would, on the other hand, I think that, that would be a very controversial thing on a national standpoint. I think that, when you Google, has any municipality in the US banned crypto, comes out empty. And for Dryden to be the first one,
He goes, we show up, right?
yeah,
Suddenly people know about us.
that's for sure.
No, they'll remember us again. Oh, they did it again.
Well, so what do we, if we. As part of this, because we're gonna be giving. Assuming that the. Resolution is done and the town board agrees to hire Nan on as the. Person to do the next piece. I think we have enough already. We could write something that says, you know, here's what we want to do because we don't think it's good. We don't think it's consistent with our. With our comprehensive plan. And here's a few reasons why. And see what she does with it. To actually write. Some code.
Code. All I need is a resolution. To ban it,
Oh, to ban it.
if that's what you're gonna do.
Oh, this doesn't have to be written.
Stick it in-
I thought we were gonna write this.
Stick it right in there with the gas drilling,
I thought we were gonna.
isn't that where it would go?
If it was an outright ban, that's,
Yeah, we just stick
that's
it,
fracking.
just slide it right in there. All you need is a resolution that says why you're banning.
Is that the other thing that went big?
fracking.
Yeah, I wasn't.
But there's a lot of things in there, I mean, it's all drilling of any type is in there now, well, it's just fracking, but.
All drilling of any type.
Yeah, it's big now.
I can't drill a well.
No, it's all drilling.
Oh,
Just don't drill too deep.
I can't put in ground source heat pump.
I mean, I guess, do we know how the town board, I mean, I'm guessing the town board is in similar thing.
Well, I think the reason they put the moratorium on is because their sort of knee-jerk reaction was, we don't want this.
So putting a point to us.
And they're asking for our advice.
And they're asking for our advice.
Yeah, well, so it is contrary to,
Yeah.
to the comp. Just
It
because of
is.
the energy use.
It is,
Yeah.
it's contrary to the comp plan.
And it would
so,
affect, it would, like Ray said, it would affect some of the housing plans. And probably any other industry that wants to come in, it could affect them as well. You know. Look at Knickerbocker, there was a limited amount of energy, they might not come. Right?
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get some more businesses, right?
NICEAG headquarters is still begging for reuse.
Yeah, they haven't, well, they're not, they don't wanna sell it, so what are they gonna do?
yeah, what if somebody took that building and turned it into a big crypto mining facility?
We just filled it with batteries.
That's true. It's better, it's already safe, it's all full of asbestos.
And the wires going into it. I mean,
It's full of asbestos, so it won't burn.
And I guess another question I would have on the crypto mining or any of these data centers is how are they taxed? Like, how do you set the value? So, you know, businesses that come in are taxed, right? And one of the things we want to do is we want to have businesses come in, we want to grow the tax base, right? We want to spread the wealth, so to speak, on helping to pay for town services and all that stuff. How do you put a value on a crypto mining facility?
Or is it one of those things that's like an investment, it's actually not actualized until it's sold,
Right,
so they're actually making no money. But they're holding a giant wallet full of,
right, and so now you're only taxing
they're
them
actually
on,
losing money, so it's.
you know, you're only taxing them on the value of the building and the property, right? Is that what's happening? And yeah,
Probably, if that's Jay, that one.
I mean, how is a normal business, like how is Knickerbocker taxed, for example? Do we know? I guess I'm not familiar with how they tax businesses. Yeah, how businesses pay property taxes.
Property assessment.
Yeah, but how do you determine the value of a commercial building?
Well,
That's
they
the
pay
assessor's
taxes
job.
to the business taxes, right, and.
Well, there's also business taxes,
That's
right?
right.
And with a crypto mining facility or any kind of data center, an AI data center, cloud hosting, how how does anything go to local taxes? Other than,
There's no local income tax.
yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
There's no-
You just use it to
Facility.
build
There's
it.
no sales tax.
Yeah.
Right.
You get a little property tax out of it.
So I guess my point is that these, again, that's another reason they're sort of counter to the comprehensive plan is, you know, that one of the comprehensive plan goals was, you know, sort of planned growth that would help grow the tax base, and it's not really gonna. It's gonna use a lot of resources and not really provide any benefit. Comes back to that, right? It's not gonna,
Giant digital leech.
it's not gonna, yeah, it's not gonna create jobs. It's not gonna expand the tax base. It's not gonna, you know what I mean? It's
The product being produced doesn't really help local.
doesn't help local. Product being produced doesn't really help local.
Yeah, no money, any money generation is not gonna stay local.
That's right.
The industry would probably argue that there's no drain on the infrastructure, because you don't have the. You know, you don't have kids going to school, you don't have,
Except for.
you have potentially fire service needs.
Except for their property, you have fire service, potential fire service needs and a tremendous amount of power draw for the size of the building. That's, you know, that's the draw is on your local power resources and what it does for
Yeah,
your
so
power grid.
it's very
and what it does
different,
for-
there's no wear and tear on the roads,
Yeah,
it's different than other
it's not right.
draws.
You're right. Wear and tear on the roads, all those kind of things. It's not gonna generate extra traffic, right?
But what is it gonna generate for income?
Yeah, I don't know.
So Tony,
Yeah,
so the purpose of tonight, are we just discussing, I mean, we're discussing obviously, but on the 3 items that we're tasked to address, we're just discussing those now. We're not voting, or are we deciding any action? What's?
well, what I'd like to do is come out with some next steps, right? So what do we, you know, so we've kind of decided that we think it's something that should not be an allowed use because it's just what I'm hearing. It should not be allowed use because it's counter to the comprehensive plan. So what are the next steps? I think we need to. You
Do
know,
we need to
I
do?
mean-
th- I'm sorry. Do we still need to explore, you know, in a report form, that 3rd item that we're being asked to consider, or are we just discussing it and then we're gonna, you know, kind of summarize it rather than, you know, kick it down the road or down and so forth?
Well, I think in writing the resolution, we have to identify, because number 3 is identify positive and or negative impacts, right? So I think that's what we've been talking about.
Gotcha.
It's hard pressed to identify any positive impacts.
Well. Ray laid out a few.
Well, in 50 years, the buildings could be considered historical.
No, there's, you know, no use of no school. Kids going to school, no infrastructure, gonna be, you know, little tax on community services. No burden on services other than.
It is low burden on community services, yes, and things like roads. But it is high burden on things like the power grid. And it doesn't generate any jobs.
Well, I'm talking about the positive.
Yeah, I know.
They asked for that.
Yeah.
So try to expand on what else is there?
So I think we need to,
Well, it could generate a couple jobs. Somebody's gotta manage the facility.
yeah, I think the guy that was gonna do it, one of the suggestions, he was, you know, somebody was gonna be visiting it. I don't know. Once a week or something.
Whatever the alarm went off.
Yeah.
Breaker trips.
But
It
yeah,
could benefit.
solar farm, you know, you think about solar, well, here's another thing. You think about a solar farm and the space a solar farm takes up. And it likewise does not put drain on local facilities. Because, or local infrastructure, because it doesn't generate, you know, after construction, and you got construction, but once it's built. Doesn't really drain resources because it doesn't generate any traffic, right? There's all those same kind of things. But at least in the case of a solar farm, it's generating power, right? So it's generating clean power. So there's
Offsetting fossil fuel.
offsetting fossil fuel usage, right? So it's, So it's a different,
Well, Glenn's not producing power anymore.
what?
Well, Glenn's not producing power anymore. They moved me off of that one.
What's happening there?
They moved me off of that one. They didn't produce power since October.
Or was it as one of their customers?
Yeah, they moved me off of that one, put me someplace else in the world.
So just shut down, is just,
They've always had problems with that one.
Well, and I had somebody ask me about this because they apparently got, like, he said they got kicked off. So no, they didn't move them. They basically,
Well, mine, they sent, sorry for, they give you no power, no power, no power. And also they said, we're looking for another facility for it. Sorry for the
Yeah.
inconvenience, this big warm weather.
yeah,
Which company is this?
What's it now?
Altus?
It's
Yeah.
Altus Solar Farm, yeah, same with me, that,
And they said, oh, we moved it to a different facility, so everything should be back to normal.
right?
So- But according to the neighbors, there's a lot of traffic going in and out of there, other than the auto shop. So there's something going on over there. Yeah.
anyway, so what are the next steps?
So there's problems.
So I think we're all in agreement on,
there's one other downside to it, and then if it's away from houses and stuff, not a big deal, but they do make a lot of noise.
they do, yeah,
They're, up to 100 something plus decibels, which is not,
yeah.
Well, the ones that are air cooled, the water cooled ones. are-
they're quieter.
And that seems to be the way everybody's going, is the water cool.
Is there a water problem that comes along with that then? Are we pulling it directly from our aquifer and
It
Dumping it
depends,
on-
it depends how they're cooled, if they're water cooled.
using chillers or?
Depends how they're-
Even water cooled, yeah, don't they use chillers?
I thought they were chiller too,
So the chiller's gonna generate some noise.
not like the air.
No, it's not gonna be like an air cooled.
Right, it's a lot of energy, though. You're running a chiller all day long, it's not.
That's part of its energy use is the.
Yeah, the whole thing, yeah,
Yeah,
the heat.
yeah, the energy use isn't just the CPU, GPUs, actually, those used. It isn't just the GPUs and the computers, it's actually, a lot of it is just cooling.
Yeah,
So our existing zoning has somewhat arbitrary numbers in it. There's a maximum building size for certain types of buildings, 20,000 square feet or something like that. And that's arbitrary. That's not based on some calculation that somebody did. Somebody just, well, that feels about right. So I think that sets a precedent for us that we don't need to have extensive rationale for recommendations. So an easy thing to do would say, we'll take data centers up to 5,000 square feet, and they need to be in the industrial zone. They need to, the application needs to include a sound study and a
Mhm.
power study, and done.
Like that.
And I honestly think that.
And
if
crypto
we-
mining is.
And we would recommend that crypto mining be out, and if they don't have a stomach for that, 5,000 square feet, how about it?
In the industrial area.
And I honestly think that any additional effort we put into trying to justify that or produce numbers that say this is right, I think it's a waste of time.
it's gonna become a political back and forth in a
It's
way.
gonna become,
And it's
yeah,
gonna-
so I would just arbitrarily pick something that we think is reasonable and that's it.
Yeah. I like it.
So how many
And-
could you stuff in 5,000 square feet?
Well, that article I sent you guys
Mhm.
in October from digitalinfrastructure.com, provided the 3 different small, medium, and large facilities. And for the small facility, it was 5,000 to 20,000 square feet and 1 to 5 megawatts, that'd be 200 watts a square foot. I'd be on the low end, 5,000 square feet, and we would, be fairly comfortable that would max out at about a megawatt and put in that corridor over there. The capacity of the sub is probably in the 50 to 100 megawatt range. The wind sub-transmission lines will carry all that, so it wouldn't be a major imposition there.
If you found space for it.
Yeah. So
There's not much left over there.
Oh, in that industrial zone? Well, there's a couple pieces to it. There's the one that's right around NICEAG, and then there's another one further up 13.
13, yeah.
Yeah,
Even that's there's not a lot there left.
I thought it was mostly
No.
woods.
Around the armory.
Yeah, there's that big building that, yeah, around the armory and then.
Forest has those
And there's a,
warehouses
There's
there.
a,
There's an
so
old-
there's dirt pile.
there's an old storage building and,
We're gonna be reviewing a hemp processing operation there, I believe this month.
And what about back towards, coming towards Dryden from NICEAG, there's there's the vet,
here's the map.
Yeah,
there's the vet, it used to be a veteran's place, now it's a animal vet.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah, yeah.
that's,
As you come back, and there's
That's
the,
on industrial.
that's not.
that part's not industrial, right? Okay.
So that substation,
Right there,
Yeah.
Whitney
Here.
Road.
and then the transmission lines come across
Right.
here, right through this area.
And so
No,
this is
they go
the-
north.
This is
Right.
industrial. Light industrial is the
Yeah,
blue dot,
the light-
yeah,
the
light
blue.
industrial off,
I
yeah,
think they go north from that substation,
up in here.
more straight up, like,
They go
yep,
that
yep.
way.
I know they're on the south side of 13
That,
where
but
it goes by.
they
the-
go across that in a road.
Yeah, they go by
Yeah.
towards the
There,
airport.
there's a few different
Yeah,
enterprises.
okay, maybe they go
Yeah,
different,
yeah.
yeah.
So I would limit them here
Mhm.
and just pick a size.
I think that sounds good. Yeah, stay low end.
Again, I'm just because that's our only adult district. Do we want to give it away?
That's across the street. That's the dark blue.
We have an adult district?
We do.
It has to, but state law,
And nobody's built anything in it?
only until your retirement.
There you go.
All right. So,
That's good. So we finish this up.
well, and so I think the next steps are we need to write, we kind of gotta write this up and then. I think we should run it by Nan, that's assuming that she gets the contract, right? Or what do people think about that? Or do we just wanna
This is
forget
really a
that?
policy decision. She'll run with whatever
Whatever
the
we
town
want.
desires.
So here's what I put in the straw man.
Mhm.
A data center is a facility that houses computer servers and their associated equipment. I got this out of an ordinance down in
Right.
someplace in Virginia. This definition focuses on data centers as a principal land use, not those cases where an accessory server room serves an on-site business facility.
Yep.
And then for proposed ordinance language, I wrote, I would allow data centers up to 5,000 square feet with special use permit in the light industrial district. And then I acknowledge that this is somewhat arbitrary, but would limit load to about a megawatt based on 200
Could you
watts per
speak-
square foot.
Could you change a 1 megawatt to a certain percentage of the available capacity?
Hard to define what that is.
Okay.
Mhm.
It's very difficult.
Yeah. I would agree.
And then I thought that the existing setbacks and noise regulations that are already in our ordinance are sufficient. They're fairly restricted.
Mm.
And,
Well, and that part will be built into the zoning part,
right,
but the other piece we're talking about is the crypto line. And that's a separate, that's
Well,
that's
yeah,
separate from zoning.
I would say that
right?
our first recommendation is that we don't do it. But that
Right.
if we do allow it, that it be included in
Included
this
in this, yes.
application that would limit.
So we ban the crypto.
Moratorium, yeah, or,
Well, not a moratorium, this would be this would be recommendation.
Okay.
We have a moratorium right now.
So ban-
okay, gotcha.
So Nan has this, and if we just said to Nan that we're thinking that this is what we want to go with
This is
the
what we wanna
exception
go
that,
I mean, this would drastically reduce the actual number of people trying to do it here. So almost like
Well, plus the, you know,
avoiding even coming out and saying we're gonna ban this, which will attract a lot of attention.
no kidding,
And
yes.
maybe this is an easier route, right?
I think it is.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
prefer to do this and not have to deal with the backlash. of it.
plus you really don't have the land.
No, I mean, you might
So
get
you
one or
have to-
two.
You have to buy somebody out. Well, I guess buy the storage building.
I like the idea of just allowing it, but then restricting it, the way you have it there.
So we're thinking so forget the ban.
Just make it restricted.
And just write
yeah.
it into the zoning there.
And the reason we wouldn't recommend a ban is that it will kick a hornet's nest.
I mean, within the code, yeah, right, I mean, I think,
Don't wanna be first.
Well, remember we, the town kicked a hornet's nest when they banned
They did.
fracking too, so it's.
I don't think it would take a hornet's nest. What's it gonna?
I mean, Dresden's trying to do that now, but the
It's
place
too
is
late.
already built, that's
Too late.
part of the problem, yeah.
I'd say give them the option.
Go with, so we incorporate this into zoning,
Well, that is the. Either ban it both or put it all in one, ban crypto and put that in zoning. Or add crypto then.
so does that address,
that's data centers, right, so that would. be
right,
AI,
but I guess
also-
I'm just trying to think of a loophole, right, like, so does that mean I could. If I have a business, I could put a data center in my business. And
Read the
that-
first
that-
thing you said, there had,
in
the
that
data is
district.
independent.
The definition that I got from
Yeah.
whatever it was, Virginia. This definition focuses on data centers as a principal land use. Not those cases where an accessory server room serves an on-site business facility.
It's serving that business, and I think that's the,
Right.
and maybe Nan could, if that sounds good to you, but maybe she could look at it and say, is that really gonna hold that firm or not? It's more like legal speak, right, and
Yeah.
make sure that that's the correct way of putting that, but that whatever server you have is actually directly doing something for that business in that building.
my business is crypto mining.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Which is still limited to the 5,000 square feet.
In the industrial zone.
In the industrial zone, because you are data.
It would be, I mean, if that's my business, if that's my only business, then yes. it would be.
He's planning for retirement. I tell you.
Yeah, I get it.
Looking for the loophole. In the back room.
All right, so so Dan already has this, so this, I don't think we need to do much with this then until we actually start working on the zoning, but this can be one of the first things that could get knocked out, right, is that we just say, let's write this.
So in Nan's work to respond to the straw man, I think it's fair then to say to Nan that the wording that we have here, that we're still thinking that that's the way we would go. Please comment on this.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, so she doesn't worry about doing a bigger scope around this issue.
Right.
Right.
yeah, I think we're thinking rather, I mean, I like your definitions.
Mhm.
5,000 square feet is not a big data center.
No.
And it's restricted to that zone.
And it's restricted to that zone.
Or the two zones. You wanna make it two zones?
But it's light was one light industrial and one light industrial office? Is that what I said?
The dark blue.
Yeah, the stippled is light industrial adult,
Dog.
so
Oh,
I would say all light industrial.
but all the light industrial districts, yes. Whatever those are, yes.
Both.
Well, that's the other thing. Now, as part of this whole zoning project, are we redefining those
I was just gonna ask
zones?
that.
Not in phase one.
Okay. But, that's,
Over the longer haul, Nan, I thought had some pretty pointed criticisms of the future land use map that we created.
The future
Yeah, in the comprehensive plan.
and the new one.
Yeah, she commented that she didn't think that, in some cases it would accomplish what we wrote in the plan. Especially the one that runs up 366, between the light industrial zone and Etna. That corridor that we picked.
What was that corridor
like to
for?
do?
Oh, it was
You mean Main Street?
along here?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that being developed into some, can't remember, nodal corridor or whatever.
Just more businesses.
Yeah, more business along.
But that's complicated, and I deliberately excluded it
Yeah.
in this first phase. I thought it would take quite a while to figure that one out.
That's
Well, and I think-
Transportation.
Yeah, you're right, and I think as part of the scope, we're gonna do this phase one, and phase two is gonna be. Addressing sort of the other codes, but then, is phase three actually looking at the map? And thinking about, okay, here's all these things, how do they apply
Yeah, that's what you do then.
physically on
But
the
even
map?
if that,
We can do
I
that
mean,
now.
do you foresee bringing more light industrial closer to the center of Dryden? That seems unlikely to me, right?
Well, one of the main, there's two issues bringing light industrial closer to the village. One is water and sewer. And the other is power capacity. But, I would like to see more commercial. I'm not sure about industrial. I don't know what we could do with industrial closer to the village.
Remember, it's light and.
Can we say it's only allowed in adult areas?
Set up competition.
Yeah, well.
I guess it's a risk, right?
Yeah. There is that, what's that yellow barn? Isn't there like that yellow barn industrial park there that's sat empty for
Right on Route 13.
right up
Yeah.
at 13?
20 commercial lots.
There's 20 commercial lots in there.
They're by the pain doctor and
Yeah.
and near the cemetery.
Yeah, and there's two businesses in there. There's the pain doctor and the,
Never taken on, been there
Yeah,
as
yeah.
long as I can remember.
is it? Not a podiatrist,
Oh, the dermatologist.
Dermatologist.
I'm not sure if those are part of the
I don't
commercial
know if they're
subdivision or
part of
not.
it, but they're in that area. It's behind them.
But that's,
It's that,
mixed use, right?
it's mixed use.
it would be hard to put industrial there.
It would be hard, right, and for one reason is that there's no water there.
Well,
Water and
also
sewer.
the neighbors would complain.
Yeah.
The subdivision up the hill,
That's true, there's some.
because they drove,
And
Cortland Produce out
and
of
there's
their old building,
there's the cemetery across the road that would complain.
remember that?
Don't want to disturb them.
They did, Cortland Produce moved because people complained.
Really? In that scenic way neighborhood?
They were down on
Oh.
13 and they got, were unloading their trucks at night.
What was that?
They complained dearly, the people up the hill there.
About,
The lights, the Cortland Produce unloading their trucks and stuff like
oh,
that.
yeah,
So what building were they operating out of?
Where the stone guy is.
where the
now.
stone guy is now.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And really, the biggest complaint, and I understood it, the biggest issue that Ithaca Produce had, that was originally Ithaca Produce,
Yeah, it was it, kind of, yeah.
that, is, they would be loading trucks at 5 in the morning. And there's a house right there.
Mhm.
And, they ended up trying to do things to, put earth berms in and all this other stuff, because there was a house, house right there. They complained a lot, and I don't blame them. The house was, I don't know, not even 100 feet from the loading dock.
Trucks backing in.
Trucks backing in with their beeping, alarms and, rolling, you know how noisy it is when you're rolling pallet jacks and all this stuff onto trucks, right? I don't blame them for being
They raised the backward.
upset, but this is the problem when you have a corridor like Route 13 that's zoned commercial, but you have some houses still in it, right? And
I
it's-
don't believe that yellow barn industrial has 3-phase power either.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They call it an industrial park, but it's not designed for things.
It'd be
Like-
more, be like a professional park.
It would be more like a professional park, yeah. If it was built, but that was designated. I don't remember, that was designated 20 years ago. I think.
Before we had zone,
And it's,
back on Henry zone,
and it's,
whatever you do.
and nothing has been built on there, nothing. So, this is the other thing, is we can define these areas, but nobody's gonna take them, right?
Well, I still think North Road would be a good spot for some more businesses too. 3-phase power, potential for water,
Mhm.
potential for sewage.
All right,
Already got some up there.
so it sounds like we don't have to do a whole lot then.
Good for us.
All right. So I think we decided that these special meetings going forward are gonna be on if we have them, are gonna be on the first Thursday. Right?
We still need to talk about BESS,
About what?
that battery energy storage.
Oh, right, yep,
Also, I wanted to throw out there, Jennifer Minner, a professor up at the Cornell Planning
Yeah.
School. She has a bunch of students that are looking for work this semester, and is there a way we think we could employ some expertise?
What,
Some research
what type
project.
of, because she's typically, historic preservation and stuff like that is.
Yeah, this
What
is
is
more
her?
just a
Just
a
planning?
federal planning
Okay.
course, yeah. So one person was in our class is Luke Kerr, who did the presentation to us last week.
Yeah.
So he's one who's interested in doing regulations relative to his area of expertise. But it's the spring semester. I don't know that we're gonna be advanced enough, but if there was research, discrete pieces of research, we wanted to test them. There's some.
well, and he
potential-
gave us that presentation and we can certainly use that.
Mhm.
I think we should use some of that when thinking about the housing pieces and some of the other things we're talking about as we move forward. My question is how are we gonna keep all this in our brains? But we're gonna have to figure out how to sort of store this stuff so we can kind of take it into consideration when we want to. So on the battery thing, personally, I think that should be an allowed use. And we just have to think about how to zone those.
I mean, it doesn't have the impact and the benefits, so that, it's kind of the opposite.
It is kind of the opposite.
It's good to have those around us, so if the grid goes down, we have backup, local backup.
Right. And it helps balance we have we do have solar farms in the town. And battery storage systems help balance those. Those types of.
Gotta get the fire department on board.
Yeah.
energy production.
It's a big con, battery storage.
So. Do we need to think about size?
For battery storage?
I've started reading some of it. Did anybody read any of the people that came and did that presentation on the battery facility? Gave us a bunch of resources. They pointed us to some existing zoning regulations that address battery.
The folks
storage.
from the Caswell landfill project. You're talking
No.
about.
No, the.
No.
Oh, MCE.
Yes,
And
yes.
Ray, did we, remember I went through all that stuff and wrote a summary of it, but I can't remember if we distributed that to everybody. Maybe we didn't.
I think we did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
a 2-page white paper on it.
Yeah. I think we could take that and.
Right.
I
I truly think you need to talk to the fire department
agree.
first,
Okay,
get them on board. Then you discuss size and how and where. So
So
you
is-
find out what they need
And what technology they're open to.
and where, because they're the ones that can have to monitor this for the. what,
so is there someone,
5 hours or whatever it's gonna
Mhm.
take to get the crew down from
so
Syracuse.
who presented, the people that presented that, I'm gonna have to go back.
National
and-
Mission
Clean
Clean Energy,
Mission Clean
yeah,
Energy.
MCE,
Mhm.
Is that a state thing or is it?
They're national.
The national?
big private company.
Is it possible? What I'm trying to think of, so if we go to the fire department
Mhm.
and say, what do you think about battery storage?
They're gonna say no.
Right,
You can say, okay, so what's the limitations? What is it?
right.
So
And
what's causing the no?
And that's, so what I'm thinking is, it would be nice if we could get a presentation like what MCE did with the fire chiefs from, say, Dryden, and
They've been to those already.
they have.
Yeah.
Associated with the Caswell Road project.
Okay.
The 10 megawatt one.
Yeah.
100.
I mean, you gotta convince them because they have to monitor for, what was it, 5 hours for them to respond from Syracuse or wherever they're coming? You know, so you've got two guys and have to monitor it. Who wants to do that?
What do you mean?
They're in the well, they're gonna stand by and watch the fire burn so it doesn't catch out, you know, other properties on fire.
Well,
Right.
Craig, I agree completely. The fire department guys need to be included
They need
in
to
this.
be. So I don't think it's up to us to say we're gonna make the zoning law for these things until you have them on board, is all I'm saying,
Point well taken.
you know? Cause
So how do
we
we
can
do
do
that?
it, and they're just gonna be mad, they're just, I mean, they're
So
gonna throw a beer in your face.
who's the fire coordinator? What's his name?
He's no longer with the town. He had a 2-year contract. and
Oh, I
it's
see.
done.
Yeah, so he was at the meeting last spring and thought that it was a non-issue, that it didn't make any difference.
Of course he did, because he's not fighting the fire. I mean, you think about it, I mean, you can only wear air packs for 30 minutes, you can only do it twice a day. In 24 hours, so you got, you know, how many people do you need for 5 hours to watch this thing burn? You know, to oversee, so you've got issues there, you know, and then you got the toxicity issue with it all. And why
Oh, I don't think this
these
is
guys
slam
don't even,
dunk.
these
I
guys
mean,
don't wanna be around some of
Yeah,
that.
personally, I think it's a fairly light use, and I think the monitoring technology and, you know, people have
Well-
learned a lot, but, when one catches
It's
on
on bad
fire,
cell
man,
and
it's,
all that.
yeah, it makes the national news.
They run or get a runaway, but you gotta get them on board, because otherwise they're just gonna do like.
Yeah.
You know,
And then the other piece of this, which I don't understand, but if you look at the transmission interconnection queue that's
Mhm.
operated by the New York Independent System Operators, and they control access to the transmission network here in New York State. They publish a queue of all the different projects that have applied to connect into the transmission system. And at one point, there were over 200 big battery energy storage projects that were in the queue to be connected. Now there's 5 or 6. So all the rest of them withdrew their application. I don't know why. I asked the question when MC was here
Mhm.
last fall, didn't get a good answer from them, but there's something weird going on. So I asked Ray to get a hold of MCE. They said they were gonna get their project in the queue so that we could see it, to see that they were legitimately interested in Dryden. So that we would go ahead and spend time screwing around with this topic. And they didn't do that. So the project is not in a queue. What
interesting.
if they
Well, they
did?
said February 28th, they're getting an interconnect study or a transmission study.
So we would
That's-
like that. We would like a copy of that study
Okay.
as good faith proof that they're really interested in doing this, because I think it's gonna be controversial.
I think it will be too.
It's a big tax producer. I think the assessed value of this thing is on the order of $100 million.
So the battery,
Mhm.
we've got time on that, so we can nip away at that and not put it in, maybe in with this.
Except they're gonna back
Yeah.
out if they don't hear, if they feel like we're like just not.
I think we need to be moving on it. Do we have to be moving quickly on it?
Okay.
I don't know, but I think we need to be moving on it because I think, you know, they likewise kind of, the way I read it was they likewise kind of want to know that we're
Okay.
willing to
That's correct.
address it, right?
right.
And because what they don't want to do is start down this path and invest all this money in
I get it,
design and all that and have us come back and say, oh, no, we changed, it. You know, we decided we didn't want to do it.
So instead of putting our presentation together to show to the fire department, what if we just had a meeting like this almost with the leaders of the fire department and had showed the presentation they gave and some discussion about it?
That's what we should do.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a
We could do
team thing and we, you know, we'd like to figure out where the sports is, but what are the issues and what can we do to get around
I
it?
think you
Or
would just have
or
it.
it isn't,
I
And
think-
even if we don't have the answers in that the thing I'm a little
Exactly.
worried about is it'd be nice to have an expert here that could answer their questions, but.
And we don't start from scratch because they heard it for the
Right.
Kingswell Road project.
Right.
And the only difference here is it's 10 times bigger.
And so really, but hear their concerns, get their feedback.
I wonder if they'd be willing to join a Zoom call with us, MC, and just could talk it through with a group, so it's more of just a small. We'd like to get.
The NCE is going to,
You see, because they're the
Yeah,
experts,
education
they'd be gonna
resource.
tell them what they wanna do, and then we could have discussion about it real time.
Not sure what an MCE would bring to the table more than they've already heard.
Yeah, I don't think they would,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay,
And
so
actually, it might be
MC gave the
better to-
presentation to the fire department, that's, because I thought you said there's a conflict.
MCE has not done anything.
It's a
with the
different
fire
project,
department.
it's a different type of battery, it's a whole, it's not quite the same.
I don't know.
It's-
They're lithium ion batteries.
No, I asked that question. They said they weren't going with that. They're gonna go with
It's not a flow battery.
no, I know. I have to go back.
there is a new
It's an
lithium.
iron battery.
It
Lithium ion.
is still lithium. It's not lithium ion, it's lithium something else, and it's not as flammable.
Because I asked that question during the
Yeah.
meeting, they said they're gonna be going with that,
It's-
not.
Who's chief now? Mark
Bell.
Bell?
I mean, it's a good thing we need to find out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so maybe could we do it at our next, this meeting? Or do we not want to, do we have other things we want to do in that one?
No, that could, I mean, the fire departments could probably, there's only 3 chiefs now, so.
Right.
Did they ever find their equipment?
I've heard, no.
Lots of equipment.
It's another story. for another day.
NYSERDA, would we want to bring in a NYSERDA expert to be?
Maybe,
Useful
that,
resource?
I would just like to hear what the fire department would, personally.
I mean, we have a copy of the presentation, right? So we could just pull that up and walk. I mean,
See
we're
what it
talking
says
about,
about the battery technology.
yeah. We want to definitely have a firm answer on what battery technology, because their presentation said a different battery technology than what they're doing. And that was confusing because I asked, why are you going with that? They said, no, we're gonna actually use this technology. So I think because battery technology is changing so fast,
Right.
even the presentation isn't keeping up with it exactly. And I can be wrong, we should just confirm that.
You know, Ray, what you might do is get MCE, give them a call. And ask them if they have anything that talks about the flammability characteristics of the technology that they're proposing. And whether it's any different than the lithium ion meltdowns that we read about in the paper, and if so, send it to us.
right,
I'm not aware of it. I'm not
Right.
aware of a technology where,
and then have the conversation with the fire departments.
I would just reach out to Mark. but-
Just us,
Well,
like he's.
All three of them,
yeah,
all three of them,
yeah. Definitely.
you don't think they'd be in harmony? I think they are.
Oh, we know they'll be in harmony, but yeah, you might as well deal with all 3 at once.
Okay.
yeah. And I'd wanna, just from a respect standpoint, I wouldn't wanna let just one way in,
Okay.
you know,
Oh, we should schedule that.
yeah.
Who should be there?
Maybe the first Thursday of March,
Mark.
use that meeting.
Oh, I'd do it sooner than that. We want to get off the dime on this, don't we? We want to include this.
That's our this
Yeah,
meeting,
let's do it this week or next week.
Possible. I don't know
Meet-
how
meet
quickly
with the fire department
will respond.
this week or next week.
The other thing is to go to their meeting.
When's their meeting?
I mean, on the third Thursday.
Or on the other
I think they
side.
do. I think they meet on the third Thursday. I think it's the same, they meet before the town board meeting.
You mean, is it the 3 fire chiefs meet, or?
I think they do it all. I know Neptune meet, I think they do, maybe not some, but no, whatever. Let's just do it. Let's just see if.
So we're talking about scheduling another special meeting.
I wouldn't include all of us. Don't want to gang up on them.
No, I wouldn't either. Just who's going.
If it's next Thursday, I probably can't make it anyway, so. You kick me out.
Next Thursday, I can't do it next Thursday either. It's not, so it's getting a little smaller.
Yeah, I think I'd asked about the sodium ion batteries, and I think they said they're gonna do a sodium ion, not a lithium ion. It's coming as less flammable. But.
Well,
we'd
there
have
is
to-
there is a new lithium battery too, that is much less flammable than traditional
Okay.
lithium ion. There's a whole bunch of new battery technologies.
And that is one thing we could go back to them with, like, look,
Yeah.
you know, we really, if we're gonna go move forward with this, we really want you to look into these other less flammable batteries, and, you know, that's fair, right?
No, construction is 2028. so
Yeah,
it's
right,
probably
there's
gonna be
time-
Yet another.
Yeah, the
technology.
technology right now is different, so.
I wonder if somebody from Binghamton University would be useful to bring in as that technology authority. You know, where is the firefighter and battery issue going 3 years from now?
Do you know someone?
No,
No.
I mean, Binghamton is the Ed Research
Oh, okay.
Institute for Battery Technology, so. That would be the experts.
It's an unknown. You know, this project is 3 years down the road, so we have no idea what the technology is.
Got to assume it would be.
My assumption is that, you know, if you're the fire guy, you're gonna assume that one of these 40-foot long containers of batteries catches on fire.
Yeah.
And that you've set them far enough apart that, you know, they're not gonna set the next one on fire. And then you're gonna stand there and watch it burn.
Make sure nothing else catches on fire
Yeah,
for 5 hours or whatever that time frame was for the response team to come down.
yeah.
I forget, remember what the time was? I don't remember. If they come down.
Sure. Yeah, we can crawl for faster.
And then they watch it burn, and then they watch it.
Okay, so are we thinking of meeting this month then with the fire?
Sounds like it.
We're not this meeting next in March. We want to have it.
Yeah, I was, my original suggestion was that we do it for this meeting in March, which would be the first Thursday in March, which is 3 weeks away, right? No. It would be 4 weeks away.
4 weeks away.
Why don't you reach out? Could you reach out to them?
Yeah.
Why
Go
don't,
3 emails.
why don't you reach out to them and see when the 3 of them
Can get together.
could get together?
Yeah.
And then maybe 3 of us, you know, could go
Mhm.
on that date.
Okay.
We make it a convenience of them.
Yeah, I'm pretty flexible.
And we could meet at the firehouse or one of the firehouses.
Yeah.
Maybe the empty one. Sit, we can bring our own chairs. Is everybody agree about, is that good with everybody?
That's fine.
I think that's fine.
And if they want to bring, I can imagine they would want to have someone with them, so that could be like 6 people from the fire side. And is that,
Whatever.
Yeah, all you're doing is drilling for information to see what.
Yeah.
Size, what they need, you know, what we need to look at, you know, just, it's more courtesy than it.
Yeah,
You know,
Also,
just, and blame it all on the town.
recommended distance from residential
Yeah,
buildings, right?
yeah,
Like,
and how much room,
is
they-
1,000 feet really enough, right? Like how,
Yeah.
like,
and then and how much room they need around it.
yeah.
Are you discussing a date for this?
Yeah.
we're gonna leave it up to the chiefs to figure out a date that works for them, and then we'll assemble 3 or 4 from the planning board.
Okay.
You know, another piece of this is that batteries are considered a public infrastructure, a public utility. And one of the documents that we got from Mission Clean Energy was from the state of Michigan. And apparently Michigan was experiencing cases where the local municipalities didn't want it. State took over.
You just did it anyway.
Yeah, well, they wrote into their ordinance, which they had an existing solar ordinance, they added in battery storage, that if the local municipality refused to permit the use and the installing company wanted to, they could take it to the state would take over the site plan approval. And they had fairly specific criteria that they had to meet, and essentially the ordinance said if you meet these criteria, setbacks and stuff like that, that you get approved.
That's what they're doing with solar, this New York is doing. that with
That's
solar.
exactly right. So over 20 megawatts, the state does it. And I think that's an important thing to say to the fire guys that, you know, if you flat out don't want to talk about this, you should expect that at some point, I think in the fairly near
The
future,
state
The state's gonna take it over.
the state's going to take it over.
And they're not gonna call for that meeting with the 3 of them.
They're not gonna be talking to them. That's absolutely right. They're not gonna be talking to them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Cause they're throwing those things up and all
And I think that
eastern part of the state is just full of them.
Right, is it?
Oh, God, yeah. 300 acres,
Yeah, okay.
350 acres.
Oh, solar.
Solar.
I think about
No,
batteries.
no battery, not solar, but the battery should come in next, you know that.
Well, if you go up to
It's
like north,
amazing.
what about the windmills up north there? Have you driven through that?
Yeah.
It's wild.
Crazy. But they came through. and just bypassed the whole zoning process. Boom, 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 boom. Farm wanted it, boom.
the Yellow Barn project in Lansing and Groton. That's going forward, that's up by
Yeah,
us.
that one's going to,
Project.
yeah. But their bushes haven't been eaten by deer yet. That's good. Whatever
I
they
showed,
want.
have you looked at the screening plans on the one up on Carpenter's property there?
On Ferguson, it's
On
comical.
Ferguson, if you drive on Ferguson and you look at
look at
the
that,
solar
yeah.
farm from that side, it's comical, because the
They look like,
cow, shoots it off, so they're just these like.
they look like lollipops.
Close, yeah. Been down in Disney World, right?
Dale and I were driving up there not too long ago, we both looked at it and just started laughing, I'm like, oh.
Well, part of that was like, they were half dead when they.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, all right,
Alright.
so. We're gonna reach out, find a date, or a date or a couple of dates when the three fire chiefs think they might
Last,
get together.
planning board.
And then we'll figure out who can go to that, and people can go and want to can. Cause I'd really be interested in that conversation, right, but
I would too, but we'll see.
we'll see when the date is. But the, so we'll plan that out. I think for the moment, on the crypto and data, we're talking about building it into the zoning, very similarly to what was in the straw man. Is what I think I'm hearing at the moment. And limiting where it is and size, and I don't think anybody's gonna wanna build a AI facility or a crypto mining facility that.
And if they do, it's.
If they do,
There's
then
only
it's
room
fine.
for a few of them
If-
anyway.
if- if-
Right.
if they do,
Well,
it's
the
fine.
proposal in the Quonset hut by the cemetery was of this size.
5,000, under
Well,
5,000.
that Quonset hut's gotta be under 5,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's only three.
Mhm. Right, so it's in the wrong place.
Right, the right district, yeah.
It's
But there
not,
would be people at this scale interested.
correct, right. So there could be people at that scale interested, but not at that location.
You could go further and say it needs to be water cooled. Servers need to be water cooled to reduce the noise.
Or let the noise ordinance drive that decision. And then we should look at the noise ordinance to see if it is stringent enough to handle some of these that are just a constant.
Right,
Is it 85? Is it 85?
I think 65.
65.
is- is industrial.
That's what sort of stringent anyways.
I thought it was fairly
Yeah.
stringent.
That is. Can't drive a truck.
I mean, a heat pump is louder than that when it's running.
Oh,
Yeah,
Mine, 65 decibels
mine's not that noisy.
in the middle of winter
No,
when the fan's whizzing. No.
I can barely hear one. What you're telling.
I
well,
cheaped out and didn't get the low temperature one though. So it's just like full out blown.
Not that loud. You barely hear it outside.
what,
Heat pump.
oh,
Compressor.
my heat pump compressors aren't that
Yeah,
noisy.
mine are.
No, it's a fan during the middle, when it gets like 5 degrees, that thing's going full speed,
It
to
is.
get air through it, that's what I've heard.
It's
the fan.
cranking.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
don't-
I don't hear it in the house.
I don't-
No, it's outside when you're
Yeah,
walking by.
yeah.
Mine's not that noisy, but anyway. Okay. Back to, we're done with that, go ahead, finish that.
I think so. I think
So
we know
that-
what the next steps are. Yeah.
So we might want to keep it under 3 people from the planning board, so we don't have a quorum, right?
oh, yeah. That's true.
If you want to invite the public and the.
You mean not under 3 people, you mean 3 or under.
300, yeah.
No more than 3.
Yeah.
As I say, we'll put the date out to the planning board and then you guys can.
We can
Like,
Decide who wants to.
haggle about the, okay, because otherwise you gotta post it and.
Right, exactly right.
Good point.
So, yeah. Yeah, so we're just,
Looks like-
it really is just.
Did somebody
getting-
write into this?
Brad did,
Oh,
is that his old one?
Yeah, that's one thing I want.
what did
All
I,
right, so.
Do we want to do anything with
just a
the
chat, I was seeing somebody put a big thing in the chat, but it was you.
Cornell Regional Planning?
Yeah, I'd have them write us a battery facility ordinance.
Well, we got the model from the state, so it's like, we just have to make some decisions on the
Yeah.
parameters, the numbers.
Yeah,
What do they do? What do they?
Well, they're just looking for, real life planning projects. So it's certainly, I would say their skills are research. So we have.
Research?
I mean. Would they be willing to like come up with a study with recommendations for something? And you already did the walkability thing, didn't you?
What's that?
Like walkability of Dryden,
No, I didn't go. Just north.
public
of here.
transportation. I mean, those things would be good to know about. Those are what I see as some of the more difficult. Growth. Yeah, limiters.
Broke pattern. But still,
But they like those kind of projects. It's, that's their bread and butter. They go and come in and then,
do it.
look at the bus schedules and.
So if if we engage them to do something, what do they need from us?
Oh, just ideas. Some direction. And then an audience for feedback. I mean, I look at this as we've done some Design Connect projects, but that's engaging a real formal process with a team of experts. This would be like maybe only a couple of students taking on a discrete research piece. It wouldn't be on the scale of Design Connect. By any means.
No, but it would be data that they produce.
I think, I do think like walkability and stuff, it is kind of an interesting thing for them. If they were to just produce a report for us to see,
That would
they
be-
could do a lot of that grunt work and wouldn't be bad stuff for us to have.
Do that same thing we proposed for the rail trail, the connectivity from other, would they do something like that?
Looking for the spur trails.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because
Yeah,
what
They would like that too, yeah.
I mean, I created a list of streets, but I was just looking at mostly bridges.
And where would you want them to focus walkability?
I mean, I think for me, I mean, I'm personally biased, right? But like the outer areas of Dryden, the average speed limit is 45 to 55, people go 85, right? A lot of them have residential the whole way through it, but for families, it's really hard because you can't leave your driveway where it's scary.
Mhm.
So like, how would, I mean, I think it's a little more complicated. It's kind of complicated. It's like, how do those speed limits impact those roads and the ability for family life on those? And would like sidewalks help make those, like access to the parks there down the road and stuff like that? Personally, I think the area out, where close to me is an area, we have a lot of families and people can't leave their yard because of that. There's also, I think, it's not.
What area? would you-
Dryden Road's really bad, Etna Road's really bad. I'm sure there's some, like going out towards Great Peak, they're bad and similar, but I think it's less residential.
Mhm.
well, and Etna Road's had a lot of buildup residential.
Yeah.
buildup.
Ton, and I think the whole area, there's a lot of growth coming from the northeast of Ithaca out that way, because you can't afford northeast anymore.
Right.
So there's gonna, in the next 10 years, there's gonna be a lot of growth with those like single family, developments, and there's land.
No, the other one would be water service or fire protection.
They need more than 4 people.
Yeah, it's just need a certain density to drive either paying for sidewalks or paying for water.
And
That's the thing.
sidewalks
That's
is
why I don't
tough
always send them
one.
on a study of West Dryden Road or some of these places
Yeah.
where the density is not.
You know,
there
that
for investing in
that-
sidewalks.
idea of,
Unfortunately.
we talk about walkability, what he's talking about is, what Frank's talking about is, if we think about, we're thinking about this area here,
Mhm.
it's here and here. Well, not up here, this is Mount Pleasant, right,
Yeah.
up here, but like,
North of 13 there.
no, this area
Yeah,
here.
Yep.
Cause you're right, this area here is being, a lot of northeast, there's a lot of movement into this area, and Etna's a great example.
and Lower Creek too, because there's all,
Lower Creek,
it
yeah.
should be like a slow road, but people go 55 down that.
Lower
thing.
Creek. yeah,
And
you
there's
got-
no room.
you got Lower Creek, you got these, and there's a park here, there's
Yeah.
parks in Etna. And,
Rail trails right there too.
so looking at, and the rail trails.
Yeah, there's
right?
Etna Road connection to the rail trail. I mean, it's really not that connected
Well, it
right
goes
now,
back
right?
to
It's really
your-
hard.
Right.
Yeah,
What do you think, Frank?
I mean, it's not an expensive study, right? So,
I think that's focused, and I think, that's an area that there are some real needs, and, he's right. I wouldn't wanna be walking my dog on Etna Road. You know what I mean?
I have my kids walk through the woods, like
Yeah,
off the
yeah,
road,
yeah.
just to
Is that where you live, is on Etna?
yeah,
Yeah.
so I was gonna say, so we're biased, but it is,
Yeah.
that whole area, there's so many families. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
and it's growing, since I've been.
Well,
there.
and it's been building up.
It's been
There's a
plus
lot of new
year.
houses
Yeah,
along there, yeah. So,
Okay.
I mean, they
No,
already
that's not
did, they
idea.
did reduce the speed limit. One thing that was done that used to be a 55 mile an hour road, now it's a 45 mile an
I'm
hour.
not sure people know that.
Do they pay attention to it? Yeah.
Is there a use of the Etna Fire Station we could use?
Rec center,
Mm,
it's a nice little building,
it's pretty much just getting the property that,
Community center,
go park. I get the trouble with that. so I'm not
feasibility of a little park in a community center.
you know, the room might be a little raw right now to poke at that one.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to poke at that one right
Why?
now.
Why?
Because the building is actually owned by the nonprofit, right?
Yeah.
So,
But it goes back to the town,
does it?
town paid for
It
it,
should, yeah.
just like the equipment. So,
The fire
Goes to a
trucks that
lake.
are now disappeared,
huh?
the fire trucks that are now disappeared.
So
Municipal
living there,
facility
that is a
park.
place where a lot of the kids go and bike. I mean, it is
Where is
used out in that parking lot. That's the
Oh,
place.
yeah, it'd be great.
You see kids over there biking all the time, they're on skateboards.
Community center.
Yeah,
It would be a good use of it.
Make a ball field up there and everything.
yeah, this land.
Yeah.
There's a guy who lives behind it that might not.
Wouldn't care, it can happen, around fire trucks running all the time. They can still park a truck in there.
You know
what
about
did
that,
happen to those fire trucks?
No, we'll go to that.
Yeah, okay.
Few ideas. to
I'll
help you.
pass that on, yeah.
Make
It's,
it-
I think it's pretty focused though. I mean, if there's in that area.
Mhm.
All right.
I know Jenny really well too, so if she needs a contact too, I'd be happy to talk to her about it too.
Okay.
So,
It's a Bike trail through the back of all the Etna Road. Paved.
yeah, this is a real win-win for me.
Well, with those connections, connections towards the rail trail and.
Oh, they're
that
important.
area would-
Yeah,
That would be interesting.
Quality of life.
And actually, that park that's there is used by a lot of sports people to the rec. They have soccer there, they have baseball.
Which part?
The little park on that road there.
The little one.
The one right in Etna Hamlet?
Yeah, so you have cars pulling in and backing up Etna Road and you have
Yeah.
lines.
Yeah.
Because Verizon Rec uses that for sports.
Okay,
So it's not actually a park that's not used. It's used quite a
that's,
bit.
yeah, oh, that's good. All right,
Yeah.
so I think, so our next meeting is, so we're gonna work on that. Our next actual meeting is our regular planning board
27th
meeting,
February.
which is on 27th. I expect to send out the scoping recommendations and whatnot for phase one from Nan with the agenda the Friday before.
Right.
So it should come out with materials.
And she could have that even earlier than that, so.
If she has it
we'll send
earlier,
out.
if she has it earlier, we'll send it out earlier, but
Yeah.
we gave her that as a deadline.
Yeah.
That I needed it by
Mhm. That meeting.
the Thursday, well, I needed it by the Thursday before, so I could send it out before the meeting. So. Thinking that I would send it out with the agenda and all that, but. And then. Are we gonna have one of these meetings on the first Thursday in March? I think we'll have to talk about, right?
Especially if we talk to the fire department ahead of time.
If we can get.
You know, we can debrief that.
Before then,
Yeah.
then that can drive our discussion on the battery stuff and all that. Okay. All right. I think we're adjourned then, unless anybody has anything else. No, we're good. All right.
We're good.
Thanks, Brad,
Thank
for
you.
joining on there.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Thanks.